The skies of Zarthus Prime were always purple, painted with lines of stars and the long tail of a broken moon. Beneath that sky stood a tall tower made of black stone. It was cold, not because of the weather, but because fear ruled inside it. In the center of the tower was a room without windows. Strange lights floated across the ceiling. Guards stood silently along the walls, their armor humming with energy. They were Zellerons, an alien species feared across 5 systems. Their gift was fear. They didn't use guns or fire. Instead, they used thoughts powerful, terrifying illusions that broke minds in seconds. On a metal platform in the center of the room stood a man-human. His name was Ryan. He had been taken from his crashed shuttle just a day ago. He didn't scream, he didn't beg. He didn't even blink when they stared at him with glowing eyes. Queen Lysera, ruler of the Zelleron Dominion, entered the chamber. Tall, graceful, and covered in blue armor made of living crystal. She looked down at the human with narrowed eyes. Her guards bowed low. Ryan didn't. She stepped forward, her voice soft but sharp. "Why aren't you petrified, human?" He looked at her. His eyes were calm but not empty. "I've seen worse on Earth." Those 5 words echoed through the room like thunder. A low hum ran through the crystal walls. One of the guards turned his head slightly, confused. Another gripped his weapon tighter. Lysara's fingers twitched. Her spine, for just a second, felt cold. She studied him closely. No trembling, no sweat. His heart was steady. Most prisoners were on the floor by now, crying or begging. But Ryan stood straight, as if he were just waiting for a bus. She motioned to her lead mindbender, a tall Zelleron named Torvik. "Run a fear scan," she said. Torvik bowed and placed his fingers on a glowing panel. Blue light scanned Ryan's body. Floating screen displayed the results. No signs of mental collapse. No panic. Nothing. It's unusual," Torvik said carefully. "Is he broken?" another advisor whispered. "No," Ryan said, hearing them clearly. "I just don't scare easy," Lysera narrowed her eyes. "All creatures fear. We are the masters of fear. You will not resist us for long." Ryan shrugged. "You're welcome to try." Torvik looked at Lysera, waiting for her signal. She nodded once. The lights in the room changed. The air grew heavy. Shadows twisted, and whispers filled the room. Ryan's mind was being pulled into the fear field. Illusions formed around him, earth burning, oceans boiling, people screaming, ghosts from his past. Memories twisted into nightmares, but he didn't. Flinch thought he stood still, eyes forward like a mountain in the storm. Finally, the lights returned to normal. Silence followed. Even the guards looked uncomfortable now. Lysera stepped closer. "What did you see?" "My past," Ryan said simply. "And I've already survived it." She stared at him. This wasn't just resistance. It wasn't training. This was something else, something deeper. "You've lost people," she said, guessing yes. "And it didn't break you?" "Almost did," he said, "but then I realized. Fear won't bring them back. Fear won't save anyone." For the first time in many years, Lysera didn't know what to say. She turned and left the room, her long cloak dragging across the floor. As she walked down the hall, she felt something strange. Not anger, not confusion, something colder. Down in a private chamber, Lysera spoke with her inner circle. "This human is dangerous," said Torvik, "not because of strength or weapons, but because others will notice. Others will question why he stands. Should we destroy him?" A general asked. Why his era raised a hand. "No, not yet. I want to understand him." "You fear him?" Torvik said carefully. She didn't answer. Instead, she looked out the tall crystal window. Inside his cell, Ryan sat on the floor, back against the wall, looked tired but not broken. He watched the small screen in the corner, showing stars moving above the planet. Even from here, space looked endless. He thought about his crew gone in the crash. He was the only one left. He should have died too. Maybe he still would. But if he had one more chance to speak, to stand, to do something that mattered, then he would take it. A soft knock sounded on the wall. Not a guard's knock. It was gentle. A voice followed. "Are you human?" Ryan stood slowly. Yeah, you. Don't look like you're afraid. He smiled. Not right now. The voice was quiet for a moment. I think the queen is. Ryan didn't answer. He sat back down. But in his mind something changed. He wasn't just a prisoner anymore. He was a question, and questions had power. Queen Lysera walked alone through the quiet halls of her tower. Her steps were slow, her mind full. The human's words echoed again in her head. I've seen worse on Earth. She had heard pride before. She had seen fake bravery. But this was different. The man had spoken calmly. It's like someone who had already faced the worst and survived it. In the lower chambers, Torvik waited. He stood near the fear chamber, a large glowing sphere filled with psychic energy. This was where Zelerons trained, and where prisoners usually broke within minutes. Lysera joined him without a word. He activated the sphere. We'll push harder, he said. He must have a weak point. Do it, Lysera replied, her voice quiet, deep in the holding cells. Ryan was escorted by 4 guards. Their armor clanked with every step. They didn't speak. Ryan noticed their nervous glances. Some wouldn't even look him in the eyes. He was supposed to be afraid, but now it felt like they were. They entered the fear chamber. It was cold and full of strange colors moving in the air. Wires connected to the ceiling hummed softly. Torvik stepped forward. This will be stronger, he said. You should beg us to stop. Ryan raised an eyebrow. Let's find out. He sat in the center as the machine activated. This time, the images came faster, louder, not just memories, but twisted versions. Of them, fire, screams, blood, silence, his family's faces, his crewmates lost in space. All their final moments forced to play again and again. His hand shook just a little. Torvik noticed and smiled. We found it, he whispered. But Ryan didn't fall. He closed his eyes, took a slow breath. He remembered something else now, a promise. He had told his younger brother years ago, if I ever face fear, I'll face it standing. The fear broke like glass. Torvik stepped back, shocked. The readings on his screen dropped to 0. No panic, no collapse. Just a steady heartbeat. Lysera, watching from behind a glass wall, felt that strange chill again. It wasn't fear of power. It was fear of something she didn't understand. After the session, Ryan was taken to a new room. Not a cell bet, not freedom either. It was quiet, with a bed and table. Food was waiting. The guards didn't lock the door this time. It just stood outside. A while later, Lysera entered. She didn't wear her usual armor, just a long robe. Smooth and dark. Her face showed no expression. Are you comfortable? She asked. More than before, Ryan said, looking around. You resisted more than anyone has. Ryan leaned forward. Why does that scare you? She didn't answer. She walked to the window. Outside, Zeleron towers reached to the sky. You must think we're monsters, she said quietly. Ryan shook his head. I think you built your world on fear, and now you've forgotten what courage looks like. She turned to face him. What do you think courage is, human? It's when you're scared. But you choose to act anyway, he said. That answer made her pause. Something inside her shifted. Where I come from, he added, we don't have powers like yours. No mind tricks. No illusions. Just people, trying to survive. And yet you survived more than anyone I've met, she whispered. Ryan nodded, because we had to. Fear never gave us mercy. Later that night, a young Zeleron female named Lyra, one of the tower staff, entered Ryan's room to bring water. She was quiet and avoided eye contact. Thank you, Ryan said softly. She blinked, surprised. You speak kindly. Even. After what they did, you didn't do it, Ryan said. She looked at him for the first time. Do all humans think like you? Not all, he smiled. But many try. She hesitated. You're not what I was told humans were like. And you're not what I was told Zelerons were like either. She smiled slightly, then quickly left outside. Lysera was watching through a screen. She had seen how he spoke, how he remained, and how even the servants started to act differently. After meeting him, He's spreading something dangerous, Torvik said behind her. He's spreading something true, she replied. The next day, Queen Lysera called a gathering of her council. The room was filled with commanders, scientists, and mindbenders. Ryan sat quietly in a chair near the side. No chains, no guards holding him. This human is unlike any prisoner we've had, Lysera said. He resists us. And more than that, he makes us question ourselves. Then we must silence him, one of the generals growled. And prove he's right. Lysera asked. Prove we fear him more than he fears us. The room went quiet. Torvik stepped forward. Queen Lysera, if you allow this human to continue, you risk losing the strength of fear. Our rule depends on it. Lysera looked at Ryan. And what do you say, human? He stood slowly. You don't have to rule with fear. You could lead with something better. Your people are smart, strong. They don't need to be afraid of everything, and what would you suggest? Torvik asked mockingly. Hope, Ryan said. Try it sometime. Some members laughed. Others frowned. Lysera didn't react. She just looked at Ryan like he was a storm she didn't see coming that night. Lysera couldn't sleep. She walked into the hall of echoes, a chamber filled with voices of past rulers, kept in crystal memory orbs. She listened to them speak, of victory, control, and fear. Always fear. She touched one orb. It whispered, rule their minds, and their hearts follow. But her heart whispered something else. It whispered his words, lead them with something better. Rumors began to spread through the tower. They were not loud or shouted in public halls. They moved in whispers, between guards, between workers. Between young Zellerans who cleaned the crystal floors and fixed broken lights, and the rumors were all about the same thing, the human. Some said he had no fear because he had no soul. Others said he carried a secret weapon inside his body, but most whispered something different, that the human was simply brave, truly brave, and his courage was changing the queen. Queen Lysera stood on her private balcony, looking at the clouds that rolled across the sky. The storm season was close. In Zelleran culture, storms were symbols of power and fear, reminders that the universe was wild and cruel. But now, even as the clouds rumbled, her thoughts were stuck on the human's words, lead with something better. His voice still echoed in her mind. Inside the chamber of thoughts, Torvik and the others gathered. The effect is growing, Torvik said sharply. Some of the staff speak differently now. One of my guards refused a direct order. Said she was unsure? Unsure? A commander repeated. That's the first sign of collapse. This is dangerous, Torvik continued. Humans are skilled at turning hearts. They are not just soldiers. They are survivors. Storytellers. Dreamers. Lysera spoke quietly. Or maybe they're just tired of fear. The room froze. Your Majesty? Torvik asked, almost not believing what he heard. If fear ruled everything, she said, then we would be perfect. But we're not. We've silenced others. Yes. But we haven't grown. We've stayed the same for hundreds of years. No one responded. They see OULDN single quotes. Tot LOI stood and walked away from the meeting. She needed answers. Ones. Council couldn't give her. Ryan was sitting in the tower garden. It wasn't very big, but it was quiet. Blue plants grew in soft rows. Liked it here, because it reminded him of Earth, just a little. Peace for a moment. Lysera entered alone. You come here often, she said. It's quiet, he replied. No illusions, no tricks. She sat on the bench beside him. My people don't understand. You, she said. Sometimes I don't either. Good. He smiled. I don't even understand myself half the time. She laughed softly. It was the first time Ryan heard her laugh. What do you want, Ryan? She asked. He looked at her. I want to go home. But if I can't, then I want to leave something good behind. Good. A small change. A seed. Something better than fear. She looked down, you know. When I was young, before I became queen, I was afraid of everything. Didn't interrupt a dark failure, even the council. So when I took the throne, I chose to control fear instead of letting it control me. And now, he asked. She was silent for a while, then said, I'm not sure anymore. Later that day, something happened. A young worker named Lyra was stopped by a guard. She had been seen speaking kindly to the human. The council ordered her to be questioned. But when the guards tried to take her, others stood in the way, other workers. Other young Zellerins, she's done nothing wrong, one said. Talking is not a crime, said another. When the soldiers raised their weapons, the workers didn't run. They stood still. News of the event reached Lysera fast. She arrived at the scene quickly, pushing past the guards. Stand down, she ordered. The guards lowered their weapons at once. She turned to Lyra. Go home. You are safe. Then she looked. At the crowd, so are all of you. As the people left quietly, Torvik stepped forward. Your softness will break us, he warned. Maybe, she said. Or maybe it will rebuild us. In her chamber that night, Lysera sat in silence. The room was dark, lit only by a soft blue light from the walls. She picked up a memory orb and watched an old recording of her father. He had ruled before her, strict and powerful, but also cold. He never allowed questions, never allowed change. He had ruled by fear, and now she was starting to see where that path led. A knock broke her thoughts. It's Ryan. She nodded for him to enter. You don't sleep much, do you? He asked. Not lately. Me neither. They sat across from each other. If I let you go, she asked, what will you tell the galaxy? Ryan thought for a moment. I'll tell them you listened, he said, and that you were braver than they expected. She looked at him. Do you really believe that? I do, and something in her heart warmed, just a little in the days that followed. Queen Lysera made small changes, nothing big, not yet, but meaningful. Guards were told to speak with kindness. Workers were allowed to speak their thoughts. The fear tests were paused. Some elders hated it, but others watched in silence. And all of it started with one human, who simply refused to be afraid. The morning light on Zarthi's prime was softer than usual. Thin clouds floated across the purple sky. The capital tower stood silent, watching over the city like it had for centuries. But inside, something had started to shift. It wasn't loud, it wasn't fast, but it was real. Queen Lysera stood before the fear mirror. It was a sacred object told, ancient even before her time. The fear mirror was made of a rare living crystal that showed the viewer their greatest fear. Every ruler had faced it before, taking the throne. Some never recovered. Today, Lysera chose to face it again. Her reflection blinked once, then changed. She expected to see the usual images: rebellion, loss of control, being overthrown. But instead, she saw something different. She saw herself, standing alone. Her people had left her. Not in anger, not in hatred, but in silence. They had walked away, their eyes full of disappointment. The Lysera in the mirror reached out, calling. To them, no one turned back. Then the mirror dimmed, and her own true reflection returned. She stepped back, heart beating faster. This wasn't just fear of failure. This was fear of being forgotten, fear of leading people who no longer believed. Outside the chamber, Ryan waited. 2 guards stood nearby, but they weren't holding their weapons tight like before. They watched him with curiosity now, not hate. Lysera exited the fear mirror room slowly. You look like someone who didn't enjoy the ride, Ryan said gently. She nodded. It showed me something worse than pain. It showed me a future without trust. I've seen that before, Ryan replied. People following orders, but looking at their leaders like strangers. Do you think they'll stop trusting me? She asked. Ryan looked serious. Depends on what you do next. She didn't speak for a while, just stood there, her eyes distant. Then she said quietly, I think it's time I speak to my people. The announcement came later that day, for the first time in over a century. Queen Lysera would address the public without illusion, without power displays, and without fear rituals. No one knew what to expect. Some believed it was a trap. Others believed something greater was coming. Ryan stood beside her as the floating platform rose over the central square. Thousands of Zellerons looked up, silent and waiting. Lysera stepped forward. "You have known me as your queen," she began, "and I have ruled through fear, because that's what I was taught. I believed it was the only way to protect us." Her voice didn't shake, but a human came into our world. And instead of collapsing, he stood. Instead of begging, he listened. Instead of spreading fear, he gave us something strange, something strong. She paused. Hope. A whisper passed through the crowd. "I do not ask you to forget the past. I ask you to shape the future, not with terror, but with choice. With unity." She turned to Ryan. "He taught me that courage is not the absence of fear. It is action despite fear." Then she stepped back. The silence stretched thens. Someone clapped. Then another. Then more. Until the sound of hands and claws filled the air. 1,000 hearts opening at once. Lysera looked down, eyes wide. She had prepared for silence, or resistance, but not this. Ryan leaned in. "Told you, not everyone accepted the change." Deep in the council halls, Torvik and a group of elders met in secret. "She is weakening the throne," Torvik said sharply. "We must act." "But the people are responding," an elder argued. "They are reacting to a show," Torvik said. "The moment fear fades, chaos follows. What do you suggest?" "Right." Torvik's eyes narrowed. "Remove the human." Quietly. The room grew cold. Back in the tower, Ryan walked with Lyra through the inner halls. She had become his guide and friend. She no longer feared speaking with him openly. "I heard the Queen is going to open the schools again," she said. "Schools?" Ryan asked. "We haven't had public learning in years. Only the council teaches now." "Well, that's a start." "You really did change her," Lyra said. Ryan shook his head. "She changed herself. I just gave her a reason." As they walked, one of the guards, watching from behind, activated a small signal device. A red light blinked twice. The plan had started. Later that night, Ryan sat alone in his chamber. The stars outside looked peaceful. He thought of Earth again. His home, his family, the ones lost in the crash. He still missed them, always would. A knock came at the door. He opened it and saw Torvik, surprised. The Zelleran asked, "A little. Walk with me." Ryan nodded carefully. They walked down the corridor, silent at first. Then Torvik spoke. "You've caused quite a storm." "Wasn't trying to." "Some storms are born just by standing still," Torvik said. "You don't understand this. Place this system. We are built on fear because we have no other tools." "That's not true," Ryan replied. "You have everything. You just forgot how to use it." "And what do you think happens when fear is gone? Do you think peace fills the hole?" "No. Power fights to return. It's uglier than before." Ryan stopped walking. "Then maybe it's time to build something stronger than power." Torvik's eyes flashed. "Goodbye, human." Before Ryan could react, Torvik struck a small device in his hand, sending a signal, but before anything could happen, Queen Lysera stepped from the shadows. "Enough." Torvik turned in shock. "Your Majesty, I knew your plan," she said coldly. "I knew the risk." Guards stepped in from every side, but they weren't holding weapons. They were protecting Ryan. Torvik tried to speak, but Lysera raised her hand. "You are removed from the council," she said. "You have chosen fear over wisdom." Again, Torvik was taken away, silent and stunned. Ryan looked at her. "You saved me." "No," she said. "You saved us. I just finally believed." For the first time in generations, the central council chamber remained empty. The tall crystal chairs, once filled with powerful minds, now stood silent. Torvik had been removed. His supporters either stepped down or went quiet. Queen Lysera chose not to replace them immediately. Instead, she created a new space, a listening hall. In this hall, anyone could speak, young or old, soldier or servant, even humans. Ryan stood at the edge of the hall, watching as the first group of citizens took their turn. It was strange for them. Some stuttered, some hesitated. But slowly, the words came. They spoke of small things, broken pipes, long work hours. Their fear of change.lys era sat in the center. Listening, not judging, just listening after the first hour, Ryan walked beside her. "How does it feel?" he asked. "Like trying to move a mountain with a spoon," she replied. Tired, but smiling. "That's how it starts," he said. "One spoonful at a time." Outside the tower, in the city below, something new was happening. Young Zellerons were gathering not in protest, but in discussion. They spoke about leadership, kindness, honesty. Some even tried to copy the humans' way of speaking, calm, clear, without power. Lyra visited one such group. She stood on a low platform and told the story of how she first met Ryan. She spoke of his kindness, his patience, his quiet strength. He never shouted, she said. He never commanded. But somehow, he listened. The crowd nodded. Hope was no longer just a word. It was becoming real. Back in the tower garden, Ryan and Lysera sat among the glowing plants. "What's next?" she asked him. "Well," he said, "you've started something, but now you'll need to protect it." "From who?" "From fear itself," Ryan said. "It'll come back. It always does. Sometimes it wears a new face. Sometimes it speaks sweet words, but it always wants control." "And how do we fight it?" she asked. "Together," he said, "by reminding each other that fear doesn't get the final word." She looked at him. "You speak like a leader." "I'm just a guy who survived a crash," he smiled. Later that week, the outer colonies of the Zelleron Dominion sent messages. They had seen the Queen's speech. Many didn't believe it. But a few sent back simple words. "We are watching. We are listening. Maybe it's time." The change was spreading, but not everyone welcomed it. A group of old commanders, hidden in a mountain base far from the capital, began gathering forces. They called themselves the Keepers of the Way. They believed the old rule must return. "The Queen is weak," their leader growled. "Influenced by an alien, we will remind her what true strength means." They built weapons, not of fear, but of war. Real physical weapons. Things the capital hadn't seen in years, and soon they prepared to strike. Meanwhile, Ryan visited a local school that had reopened under Lysara's new laws. The young ones stared at him like he was a story come to life. He knelt beside one of the smallest boys. "Are you really human?" the boy asked. "Last time I checked," Ryan smiled. "Were you really not scared?" Ryan thought for a moment. "I was scared, but I didn't let it stop me." The boy's eyes grew wide. "I want to be like that." "You can be," Ryan said.
"Just don't stop trying."
The teacher watched the moment from behind, eyes full of quiet joy. That night, as Ryan returned to the tower, an emergency call came through the system. The mountain base had launched small drones toward the capital. They weren't full attacks, just warnings. Lysera stood at the command center, watching the screen. Her generals waited for orders. "They want to test us," one said. "They want to see if we'll react with fear." Lysera looked at Ryan. "What would your people do?" she asked. "Depends," he said. "If we're afraid, we strike hard. If we're wise, we talk first. Then let's be wise." Lysera sent a message to the mountain base. Not a threat, an invitation. She asked their leader to meet her face to face. "We speak, or we fall." Her message ended. Hours passed. Then the answer came. "We will come." The meeting took place in the listening hall. No guards, no weapons. Just voices. The mountain leader was tall with sharp eyes. He looked at Ryan, then at Lysera. "You risk everything for this human's dream," he said. "No," Lysera replied. "I risk everything for our future." "And if you fail, then we learn," she said. "And try again." The hall was silent. Finally, the commander nodded once. "We will not fight you. Not yet. But we will watch. And we will remember." Then he left. "No war?" "Not today," Ryan exhaled slowly. "That could have gone worse." "It still might," Lysera said, "but not today." They stood together on the platform once again, looking down at a city no longer ruled by shadows. You gave us something, Ryan, Lysera said. Not just courage. You gave us the right to choose it. Only reminded you of what you already had, he said. A quiet wind blew through the city of Zarthus Prime. Banners once painted with symbols of power now showed signs of peace. No more fear slogans, no more threats whispered into the minds of the young. Now the people walked freely, talked openly. And for the first time in many lifetimes they smiled without looking over their shoulders. Queen Lysera stood on her balcony, dressed not in armor but in a soft robe made of dark silver threads. Her eyes scanned the skyline. A new city was rising beneath her. The same towers, the same streets, but something deeper had changed. She turned as Ryan entered the room. They're building a new school on the east side, he said. It'll teach history, science, and stories from other worlds. Lysera raised a brow. Even human stories, especially human stories, he grinned. She smiled. You really are leaving soon, aren't you? He nodded. My people found my signal. They're sending a ship. Should be here in 2 days. For a moment she said nothing, then softly, it will feel strange without you here. You won't be alone, he said. You've got your people now. And they've got you. In the listening hall, Lyra spoke to a group of young trainees, future leaders, chosen not for their power, but for their heart and mind. She told them about the first time she saw Queen Lysera walk without guards. About the night Ryan stood in front of a fear mirror and did not fall. Strength, she said, is not found in fear. It's found in what we do even when we are afraid. The students listened closely. Some wrote her words down as the human ship approached from deep space. The Zelleran people watched the skies, not with weapons, not with fear, but with wonder. Many had never seen a human ship before. Look, strange, simple, old by galactic standards. But now they saw it differently. This ship had brought change. This ship had brought the human, and the human had brought hope. On the final day, quiet ceremony was held in the central plaza. No crown, no. Grand stage, just people. Lys. Era stood beside Ryan and gave a short speech. This human did not rule us. He did not command us. He simply showed us a different path. Cheers rose from the crowd. Then Lysera turned to Ryan. Before you go, I have something for you. A small crystal was placed in his hand. It glowed softly, warm to the touch. This is our memory stone, she said. It holds a piece of our thoughts, our hopes, and the moment you changed us. Ryan held the stone gently. Thank you. Will you come back someday? She asked. He looked at the people, the towers, the soft sky. If you'll have me, always. As the ship prepared for departure, Ryan walked through the city one last time. He stopped by the garden. The plants were brighter now. No longer just glowing, they were growing. He visited the school. Children ran and laughed. One boy stopped and gave him a drawing. It showed a human and a queen standing side by side, holding a flag of stars. He visited the listening hall. It was full now, not just with talk, but with questions, dreams, and stories. Finally, he returned to the launch pad. Lys Era was there. Waiting? Ready? She asked. As I'll ever be? They stood in silence for a moment. Then Lysera said, You once told me fear never gave mercy. And you were right. But you also taught me that courage gives everything. You found that in yourself, he said. I just reminded you where to look. He stepped onto the ship ramp, paused, then turned back one last time. Goodbye, Queen Lysera. Goodbye, Ryan of Earth. As the ship lifted into the sky, the people of Zarthus Prime watched in silence. No fear, only pride. Months passed. A message arrived from a distant world. A colony once controlled by the Fear Dominion now stood free. They had heard the Queen's message. They wanted peace too, and more messages followed. Change had begun. Deep within the tower, Queen Lysera stood in the Chamber of Memories. She looked into the fear mirror once more, but this time it showed her standing in the middle of her people, They were smiling. They were not afraid. She touched the glass. We are not ruled by fear anymore. The mirror dimmed, and for the first time in her life, Lysera no longer felt cold in her spine. She felt warm. She felt free.